All right, so hey guys, I am back today with another video. I'm actually outside, so if you hear outside noises, that's why I'm on my balcony. And they are doing some construction. They're building a new building right next to mine, so you'll hear that. And you can hear the road. But anyway, I wanted to be outside because the light out here was great and it was just an opportunity to get some fresh air. I am back to answer some of the questions that I've gotten in comments and DMs. And a lot of people are asking questions about the whole process of once you decided that you were moving to Mexico, like what did you do? So one of the first things that I did was apply for my visa. So I am a temporary resident here in Mexico, and so I applied for my visa as soon as I knew that I was coming here. And I'm not gonna go into the details of that process. I'll tell you kind of like what I did, but I would recommend that you hook up with, and I'll tag him in the comments, my guy Monty, because he was my coach through all of this and helped me out tremendously with the process. And so in order to be a temporary resident, there are certain requirements, and it varies from state to state. I've heard, and depends, where you actually, which consulate in the United States that you actually go to get your residency. I went to the consulate in Atlanta, so I went online. I scheduled an appointment with the consulate. And I had all of my documents, and again, because I work with Monty, he kind of walked me through the process, so I knew everything that I needed. Essentially, what you need is you need to be able to prove that you're going to be able to support yourself when you come to the United States. When you come to Mexico. So a lot of people think about moving to another country and getting a job over there, and I know, in some countries that may be a possibility, but the residency that I have actually says that I have income, and I'm not coming to Mexico to get a job, I'm just coming here to live. So with my documentation, I had to show that I had income and I would be able to maintain that income by living in Mexico. So as most of you know, and if you don't know, I own an accounting firm, UTB Advisory Firm, and I've owned this firm since 2001. So I've been in business for 21 years at the time of this recording, and my business has been virtual for it was partially virtual probably about 15 years ago, but the last 10 years we have been 100% virtual. So when the pandemic came, we didn't have any issues with implementing new policies and procedures and stuff like that because we'd already been virtual. I closed my brick and mortar office 9 years ago. So my business had been virtual, so I was able to I essentially showed her that, or told her that, that I own the business. So I showed proof that it was my business, that it was registered with Secretary of State, that I own the business. I am an employee of my company, and so I took my pay stubs. And so I had all of my pay stubs for the last 6 months. I also had my bank statements that showed, because she knows I'm an accountant, I could make up some pay stubs, right? So I had my pay stubs, and I also had my bank statements where it showed where I was getting a direct deposit from my company into my personal account. And so I was able to prove that, one, I own the business, two, that the business was virtual, and that it would continue to be virtual when I moved, and that I personally had income to be able to support myself when I was in Mexico. And so there is a threshold of how much income you have to have. Again, I don't want to even get into the numbers because I honestly don't remember what they were. For me, thankfully, one of my paychecks, I pay myself twice a month, but one of my paychecks was enough to qualify me for that. So I got that. And that was like a huge, huge thing. In fact, I'm going to include a clip of the video that I took the day after I got my residency. I think I shed a tear after I got my visa, right? So today is the first day of my new life. I just got approved for my residency visa in Mexico. I am on my way. Right. So they put a stamp on my passport. So I have a stamp on my passport that says Mexican visa. And so I got that on March 30th. I think it was March 30th, that I got that stamp on my passport. And then the rest of the process is that once you come to Mexico, then you finish the rest of the process. And I'll talk about that in a second. So that was the first thing that I did. Then I started purging. And I started, really kind of going through my things and figuring out, what do I need? What do I not need? We all have stuff that we are just holding on to and that we don't need. So I did a major purge. I purged clothes, I purged household stuff, personal stuff. Now, of course, I kept like memorabilia and things like that, but there were just some things that I was just holding on to that I absolutely didn't need anymore. So I did a major purge. So it was a lot of stuff going to the trash, a lot of stuff going to Goodwill. And then I just kind of started packing. And so I started packing like the things that I was keeping, like things that I don't use on a regular basis, like the clothes and all of that kind of stuff. Then the day that I actually moved, I put my stuff in storage because I didn't know what my apartment, I came to Mexico sight unseen. So I put my stuff in storage and then I came to Mexico. So I came to Mexico, and once I got here, then I was able to finish the immigration process. So finishing the process means that you actually have to stay in the country for 30 days. You can't leave. So it's not like something where you come and you just get your stamp or get your green card, because I actually have a Mexican green card. You have to kind of stay here. So I hired an attorney here in Mexico before I got here to handle the immigration paperwork on this side. There are people who do it themselves. I am not a DIY person. I'm just not. I don't DIY anything. I do the stuff that I rock at, because I do rock at those things, and I pay people to do the stuff that they rock at. So I was not trying to do the DIY. And I don't speak Spanish, right? I don't speak Spanish. I don't know their laws. I don't know their rules. That was just something that I just did not want to do. And I'm so glad that I did, because I paid the attorneys and they took care of everything. So I sent them the information that they needed, and they did all the paperwork on this side, and they got me an appointment at immigration. And I literally showed up to immigration at my appointment time. They had done everything else, filled out everything, and I just showed up and answered a couple of questions. Thankfully, the lady spoke English, and answered a couple of questions, sign here, took a picture, and I got my green card. And I was out of there in like an hour, maybe, so that part was easy. So once I got to Mexico, that I kind of skipped a little bit. So that was the immigration process. The day after I got to Mexico, I went apartment hunting. So I had already connected with a realtor. Remember, I told you guys I joined a couple of Facebook groups. So I was networking in these groups and meeting people. So I had all my people, boots on the ground, like all the people in place to help me with the process of, what I needed to do once I got here. So we had been in communication when I was in the States, and I told her, what I was looking for, what my budget was, all those kind of things. She sent me a couple of samples just to make sure that everything that I needed everything that I wanted is what she found. Like, make sure we were on the same page, and we were. It didn't make sense to look at apartments before I got here or anything like that, because stuff can literally, be available today and gone tomorrow. So she just sent me those things just to get an idea of what it was that I wanted and what I didn't want. So 2 or 3 days before I was supposed to arrive in Mexico, she sent me about 10 listings. And I picked, out of that 10, I picked, I think 5 that I wanted to actually go see. So she scheduled them, and the day after I got here, I went and looked at those 5 apartments, and I picked the apartment that I wanted. So the apartment that I'm in right now is the apartment that I picked the day after I got here. Moving into my apartment took a little bit longer than I thought it would, but I'm here. Excuse me. I absolutely love the building that I live in. I don't know if you can tell, but I live in a high-rise building. I'm on my balcony right now recording this video. And so that was kind of the process of me getting into my apartment. Now, remember, my stuff is still in the United States in storage. So I was in I got my apartment and all of that. Once I got my apartment, I knew you know, the size. Like I knew my furniture, what stuff, you know, I had, so I wanted to make sure I had an apartment that was gonna be big enough to fit all the things that I was bringing. Now there are some people who sell all their stuff and just come here and rent a furnished apartment. Personally, I had some attachments to some of the things that I had, and I just didn't want to have to repurchase all those things, especially since a lot of the stuff that I had just recently purchased. And I am really tall, so I don't know if you can tell from this video, but I'm 5'10", and most Mexicans are not this tall. And the furniture here is low, like, so if you purchase a couch in Mexico, it's gonna sit lower to the ground than a couch like in the United States. So just things like that, little things like that, were also reasons why I said I would pay the cost of getting my stuff shipped here. So I moved into my apartment and hired a mover. The movers brought my stuff. I'll probably do a whole nother video on that because this video is getting long, but hopefully that gives you an idea of some of the things that I did to prepare for my move. So I'll talk about the move in the next video.